to use a really simple example to go ahead and talk about how you can make better formulas and how you can make better user flows in Notion. So this is the formula that we're working with, and I'm sure you guys have seen it around, especially if you've tried to deal with percentages in Notion. So here we have a relatively simple formula, and I've also gone ahead and broken this down further for you guys. Trigger warning for people who don't remember math class, but we have the words numerator here, and I didn't put denominator in, but basically it exists, right? So we're going to take our numerator or whatever we're dealing with, and we are going to take it from this style, so 0.3333, and we are going to round it into this style, or round it a little bit to 2 decimal points using this trick that we have in Notion over here, because there isn't a round formula that lets you specify a certain number of decimal points, with this being our numerator or our value that we want to deal with. And we are going to turn it into a rounded version of itself by doing 3 functions on it. So the first is going to be 100 times the numerator, and that is going to turn it into this value. So if we go ahead and round this value right over here, it's going to turn into 0, and that's not what we want. We want to preserve the significant, what is it called? I don't know, something from chemistry, but yeah, we need to preserve it. But basically, we have this round function that now takes this 33.33 and turns it into just 33, and then we send it back to the churner where we get numerator divided by 100, and that takes us right back to what we wanted, to a more rounded version of this. And we can also apply that with other powers of 10, so instead of 100, if we did 1,000, we could get 33.3%. If we did 10,000, we could get 33.33% as well. This is 10, this is 100, this is 1,000, and then this is 10,000. So we see that this function can be really helpful, but it can also be super annoying if I head back into my Notion to say I want a different number of significant digits. I have to go ahead and actually change the value right over here. It's a little bit of tediousness. It's not really that much tediousness, but let's go ahead and make this a little bit easier to deal with. All right, so I'm going to go back to my 1,000 value, and I'm going to put the big scary let statement right over here, and we are going to define things. So one thing to keep in mind in Notion formulas is that if we have a left bracket or a left parentheses, we're going to need a right parentheses. And let usually goes around the entire function. So I'm going to go, I open the parentheses up here, so I'm going to close the parentheses down over here. And let's also requires that we have some variable defined. So I'm just going to say var, and then we're just going to call it 10 for now. Right? So we have a variable defined, and then we have something being spit out by the let statement. So if we look at the syntax over here, right down here, it's pretty easy and accessible. We need one variable, at least one value for that variable, and then some expression that doesn't even need to be related to this. var right now is 1,000. So the reason people use variables in programming is to make things that are said multiple times in the expression said only once, and then you use that value, because it's going to be the same regardless, to set both of those values in the expression. So we know that our var is going to be 10,000 or 1,000 here, and then add in the var and the var over here. So that does the same exact thing. Now we've reduced our number of things that we have to change from 2 things to just 1 thing, right? So if I make this 10,000, how many ever thousands, it increases the significant, I still don't remember what it is, the significantness of this to a little bit more. So, and if I put it all the way back to 10, then we have something like 80%, which isn't really significant at all because it's not accurate. I don't know. Sorry, my sister is taking chemistry right now, so there's these words that I'm supposed to know. Okay. So now, how about when we have a user who doesn't really know what this value does, but they know something more simple, for example, something like decimal places, right? So how many decimal places does 10, or not decimal place? Yeah, so say we're doing decimal places, right? And if we want 3 decimal places, this is 2 decimal places, right? So we know 10,000 is giving us 2 decimal places. I'm going to turn this var into something reliant on decimal places because I want changing this to change the number of decimal places. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the power function. The reason I'm using the power function here is because 10,000 and then 100, all those things are powers of 10, right? So if I do 10 to the power of decimal places, it should give me something like this, right? But this is incorrect because I want it to be rounded to decimal places. So instead of doing decimal places, I'm going to do decimal places plus 2. Because we know that 10,000 is 4 zeros, which means it's going to be 10 to the 4th, but it's 2 decimal places in terms of our percentage right over here. So this is what we're sitting on right now. So if I go ahead and save that, all of these values have now changed to 2 decimal places. Then if I go ahead and say, no, I want no decimal places, then we have something like this. What if I do -1? Then we go even lower in terms of the significantness of this. Right, so let's stay at, I think I like 0 decimal places. I don't really care too much about what level. Actually, it's kind of cool to see it. So maybe I'll do 1. So yeah, and that's really all there is to it. Um, um, yeah. So just if you want to play around, okay. I don't know why this changed, but if you want to play around with the number of decimal places and make better formulas that do things that you want to do that are more user friendly, you can definitely go ahead and try something like this.